What is up, everyone? Welcome to Crypto Capital Venture. Thank you for coming by. Let's jump into the Bitcoin charts. This is Bitcoin zoomed out on the weekly. We're talking all the way zoomed out. And the data is so consistent. It really is. I maintain that opinion. I've been doing videos almost 4 years now, almost every day, tracking these markets. And no matter what's going on in the world, and I know there's so many outside factors impacting these charts, no matter what's going on, the consistency of this roadmap that is on the screen right now has held up. It just has. And though it's volatile, and though it is unknown, and though we can't predict, the data really does provide a roadmap. So I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, but this data I really think helps us to make wise decisions. And I want to dig into it. This is Bitcoin on the weekly chart. And what's crazy, we're going to start here on the weekly, talk about some really important data points, and end up here on the 6 hour, because this green box that Bitcoin is testing is a zoomed out weekly indicator, a weekly support area, and just all around weekly data point, macro data point that is so important. So let's go back here. This is Bitcoin. This is the Brave New Coin Liquid Index. It's a day behind in terms of price, but here's what we're watching. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you know I've been tracking these 786 macro Fibonacci lines. And I used it to really help us find the bear market low in the last bear market. There's literal content of me discussing it in December. And this is when this chart was made. Now, I want to dig into what's actually happening on this weekly chart with that 786 line, how it translates to the 6 hour chart. And this is where I want to start. So to give you a sense of what that 786 line, that yellow line that we just looked at, these yellow lines, here's what it is. It's a macro Fibonacci. So we can go all the way back to 2011, right, to the all-time high at $270, back down to a 786 line. This is how Bitcoin interacted with that line then. It put in a bottom, all in the entire Fibonacci range. It's a 618 to 786. So that's this kind of first higher low. And then what it did again, going into its next cycle, going into new all-time high, exited that, entering new all-time high, and then revisited. And the thesis that I came up with back in 2018 was, and by the way, this is a 2015 low, the thesis I came up with was the 786 line, which is here on the Fibonacci, kind of acts as this confirmation of accumulation. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin's going to bounce there, but it kind of defines the bottoming out range and the formation range, the accumulation, the opportunity range. And usually in this range is mass fear, is all-time high fear. And so time and time again in these cycles, this really has kind of played out. So then we exited that bottom back in 2015. We went to the 2017, 2018 bull market high. And then what happened? Bitcoin, boom, down to the 786. And we entered accumulation, fear, opportunity, range, and then it reset. And then here we go again. We're exiting. And so it was really cool to do a video back here in December talking about this, and then seeing Bitcoin exit and go into all-time highs once again. And we're talking about like $3,000 to $4,000 range, all the way up to like $60,000 plus. And now here we are again, Bitcoin kind of revisiting and testing this entire Fibonacci range. Now the 786 is all the way down here at $17,000. The one thing that's kind of diverging a little bit is this 200-week moving average. And so this is an area where I can see Bitcoin kind of bottoming out at, as opposed to a 786 or below, though that is still in play. But the reason for this video is this. When we look at where Bitcoin is right now, it's at a 786 line. I think we start getting a nice hint of what is next for Bitcoin. And this isn't so much a prediction. This really is not a prediction. It's no guarantees. But when we're looking at these markets and we're watching Bitcoin right now, and here's the 618 line of the Fibonacci on the 6 hour chart. This is how critical it's gotten. Bitcoin has tested it almost perfectly and has been seeing support above it. So I think the case for a Bitcoin rally, and this could be this could piggyback on the heels. This could piggyback on the rally of traditional markets, basically, right? And a lot of people are talking about that getting ready to happen. Now, if that happens, Bitcoin, here's what I could see it doing. If we're watching Bitcoin right now, we saw it on the 6-hour chart, the 618 support. You can see it here on the weekly. Look at that weekly wick. Boom. A revisit to the 20-week moving average is what makes most sense for Bitcoin. A $38,000 Bitcoin, and that could be before going lower, right, to bottoming out range. Now, the reason why I think that is just because even in the last kind of bear market, as Bitcoin was getting this 20-week moving average crossing below the 50-week moving average, a green below the blue line, you can see Bitcoin just kind of consolidating at the 20-week moving average before that last just capitulation to the bottom, right? Same thing all the way back here. 20-week moving average crossing below the 50-week moving average. And look, it crossed below and even then revisited the 20-week moving average before that last swing low. And so if we go to the Bitcoin charts now on the weekly, it's kind of like the setup is getting ready once again. So we've seen the 20-week moving average crossing below the 50-week moving average. Bitcoin's down here at a 618 Fibonacci. There's such a case that Bitcoin could make a move and just meet, at the very least, meet that 20-week moving average. Now, could Bitcoin cycles kind of diverge from what they've done previously and actually break above the 20-week moving average? That would be a whole nother video, a whole nother type of bullish confirmation on the macro. But at the very least, I think meeting the 20-week moving average is what Bitcoin is kind of set up to do right now. And I could be very, very wrong. I mean, Bitcoin could fall into this entire Fibonacci range. It could. I'd be looking at that 200-week moving average for that next support area on the macro. But it just makes sense that Bitcoin would bounce off of the support at the 618, revisit or at least meet, even if it's a slow, just move to the upside. Maybe the 20-week moving average comes down a little bit and it meets it at $35,000. That move for Bitcoin seems to make the most sense. The last piece of data I really want to share with you, last but not least, is this. When we zoom out on this chart, if you notice from this bear market low all the way back in 2015 to the bull market high, we're looking at around 153 weeks. If you look at this bear market low to bull market high, 153 weeks. So the time frame of the bull cycles from low to high match up very nicely. And then if we look at this, from the bull market high of 2017 to the bear market low, 51 weeks. Then if we look at where we are right now, from the bull market all-time high to 51 weeks, that would be fall of 2022. Now, there are some people out there that would want to do this because a lot of people, and I kind of agree, the consolidation for Bitcoin kind of started back here last spring, right? So if we want to kind of take that and put 51 weeks from that consolidation starting point, that's kind of where Bitcoin is, like, already, right? So some people say, hey, listen, the consolidation is almost over. We're about to bottom if we haven't bottomed already. So I think we're just somewhere in between the two. There doesn't have to be, I mean, you can't just mirror the history of Bitcoin exactly and say, hey, the exact same time frame is going to match up. But I think the consistencies of consolidation are just right before our eyes. They're happening. I mean, when I charted this all the way back in 2018, I had this consolidation happening, and it is happening. The time frame of it, we have to keep an eye on, but I think at the very least in the short term, when we look at the 6 hour at the 618 support, there's a case for Bitcoin right now to make this move to the upside. So I think it's something just to watch out for, to be ready for, to anticipate, but not to so much be faked out by, right? There would have to be a lot of confirmation for those bulls to continue at above that 20-week moving average, right now sitting at around $38,000. But I just wanted to throw this data out there for you as we're just kind of surviving this downtrend, surviving this bear market formation. A lot of us are just sitting here guessing, right? Because that's all we can do. Nobody knows. I'm just a YouTuber in your position tracking the data, tracking the charts, because we're all looking at the charts every day. We're all wondering what's next. We know downside. We know what downside is in play. The 786 down here around 17,000, the 200-week moving average around 22,000. We know it's in play. We'd be crazy not to anticipate that. But in this short to midterm rally potential, the 20-week moving average has historical significance on these charts. And I think a move to that area is very much in play. So those are my thoughts today in this Bitcoin video. Let me know your thoughts. I appreciate you. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber. I'll see you all in the next video. God bless.